forever whispering stories of what once was. The Mississippi and Ohio rivers run like two great veins through southern Illinois. For generations, they brought life, commerce, and prosperity to the small towns that lined their banks and the lands beyond. Towns like Kaskaskia, Cairo, and Shawneetown grew up alongside the water, building commerce and communities on its promise. But the river, that giver of life, was also a taker. The unpredictable nature of the rivers has led to entire communities being erased by devastating floods, leaving behind ghost towns and the echoes of a vanishing history. First, there was Kaskaskia, established by French colonists and the Kaskaskian tribe along the banks of the Mississippi. By the early 1700s, Kaskaskia had already developed into a prosperous hub of regional commerce. Life in Kaskaskia flowed with a rhythm as old as the river currents themselves. The easily defended peninsula of fertile lowland from nearby bluffs ensured decades of development and growth for the river town. In 1809, as the capital of the Illinois Territory, Kaskaskia is estimated to have had a population of around 5,000 residents. At that same time, just north of Kaskaskia along the Mississippi, the settlement known as St. Louis was home to little more than 1,400 souls. By the mid-19th century, decades of deforestation along the river, coupled with increased steamboat traffic, weakened the banks that kept the river contained. By 1818, as Illinois was gaining statehood, the new state capital of Kaskaskia was plagued by a series of devastating floods. With the state's population moving beyond the river and the quaint river towns, in addition to the unpredictable nature of the river itself, the decision was made in 1819 to relocate the state capital to the centrally located town of Vandalia, Illinois. Growing impatient and angry, in 1881, the fickle Mississippi carved a new channel during a catastrophic spring flood, severing Kaskaskia from the mainland and stranding what was left on an island. Some residents went to sleep in Illinois, and with the course change of the Mississippi, they technically woke up in Missouri. Townspeople salvaged what they could of old Kaskaskia, rebuilding the town on a new, smaller tract of land just a short distance to the south. For many decades, the ruins of the once bustling river port and first capital of Illinois were visible along the banks of the Mississippi, being well into the 20th century before the last remains of the first Illinois State House disappeared with the currents of the Mississippi. Now let's consider the fate of old Shawneetown on the banks of the Ohio. For more than 120 years, it was a prosperous regional hub, home to the state's first bank and a vital trading post due to the nearby salt springs. But the Ohio proved to be a treacherous neighbor, as the waterway that provided life and opportunity often turned into an instrument of utter destruction. Multiple attempts to tame the river with a series of levees and floodgates were always met with even larger flood events. The final blow came in January of 1937, when a catastrophic winter flood would submerge the town in more than 15 feet of water and ice, destroying virtually every structure in town. After spending many cold months in a tent city a few miles west of town, by September of 1937, a first-of-its-kind effort to relocate an entire community began to take shape, with the first survivors of the flooded town moving into homes in the newly planned community of New Shawneetown, leaving the remains of the old town as a silent testament to the river's power. Explorers, adventurers, and artists have been documenting their travels since the earliest treks through the southern Illinois wilderness. It has been those detailed accounts and the visual images captured along the way that has given us the best glimpse into the land that would become America's heartland. Such is the case of this aqua tint engraving from the 19th century featuring cave-in rock along the Ohio River. Documented by artist Carl Bodmer in the spring of 1833, the infamous geographic formation along the Ohio was the place of legend even back then. Stories of river bandits based around the cave were plentiful. Lawless scoundrels taking advantage of weary settlers and sending many of them to a gruesome watery grave. By the era of the steamboat traveler, the wild past of the river bandits had been tamed by time, allowing artists like Bodmer to capture the natural beauty of the southern Illinois River Basin. These rivers have carved the land and shaped the soil, and for centuries defined the lifeblood of southern Illinois. The land along the rivers have always had a relentless pull. The slow work of erosion and the sudden cataclysmic violence of a flood are not acts of malice. They are simply the way of things in southern Illinois. Many souls have been humbled and had all of their accomplishments reclaimed by the very ground from which they sprang. And what remains is what always remains. It's the stories. This is Sean Vincelette, and that is one of the many stories of southern Illinois.